guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. That's from a guy. He is 42 years old, and he shares his story from 10 years ago when he unfortunately fell prey to a single MOM who slithered her way into his life and took full advantage of him. And you're going to see in this story, this guy had next to no experience with women, and even though he didn't have experience with them and put on the facade that he wasn't interested, deep down he did. Deep down he wanted a girl, he wanted something in his life, and unfortunately because of the lack of experience, she knew darn well what she was dealing with, took full advantage of it. However, even though our guy made a ton of mistakes, our guy eventually sees reality for what it is and handles it accordingly. And let me tell you, gives her quite the surprise. And I'll be going to go over here, guys, just to remind you how there are a lot of women out there, whether they're single MOMs or not, that can spot a guy who clearly is unhappy, maybe desperate, and will certainly take advantage of you. You must be careful. And you know what? There are people in life in general, men, that will spot other guys to take advantage of. You got to be careful. You got to have street smarts. That's why I encourage guys out there that regardless what they may say, deep down they want someone in their life. A girlfriend or something like that, you got to get experience. You got to put yourself out there. And if you were the ugly duckling growing up, overweight, or you didn't blossom, if you will, or come into your own till later in life, don't let that stop you. Take care. You got some, if you're overweight or super skinny or something, do something about it. Hit the gym, lose the weight, get up, put some muscle on, work on your appearance, get some social skills so that you can then, get some experience and have what you want. Because otherwise, you can be much older in life, in your 30s or so, no experience, and somebody starts paying attention to you, and you are putty in their hand, and it can go badly. And you're going to see here in this story, too. It says, "Hello, SSM. My name is Eric, and I enjoy your content. In fact, a recent video, which I can't remember the exact title, reminded me of a similar situation that I was in about 10 years ago. So I thought I'd share it with everyone. For starters, I'm a 42-year-old male who lives with my pit bull, Ronnie. I don't date, nor have I dated very much, so I'm not coming from a position of great experience. As a matter of fact, I've only had one real relationship my entire life, and that one I'll be discussing. If you're surprised, don't be. Well, all it takes is a guy falling in love and getting burned really badly, cheated on, used, to say, no thanks. And it sounds like he dated here and there, probably more like to get some ass or something like that. I am fully aware I was never attractive. In grade school, I was the fat kid that most people made fun of. By high school, most people just ignored me. I had 3 friends total, and we would meet on the weekends to play video games, while the other boys our age were out meeting girls. Needless to say, we didn't know much about dating. Okay. Nothing to feel bad about. A lot of guys were late bloomers in life. A lot of guys were that kid that were overweight, that were made fun of and all that, But you know what? You can always turn things around eventually if you really want to, in terms of losing weight, getting in shape, or if you have bad experience with gals, which, well, frankly, nobody that writes in here doesn't have bad experience with gals. They can get out there and learn a few things, indeed, if that's what they want. About 10 years ago, I was hanging out with my friend Doug. There's only 2 of us left, as our other 2 friends have since moved away. We live in a major metropolitan city in the Midwest, and our favorite hangout is a small cafe that caters to artsy people. Doug is a graphic artist, and his girlfriend at the time was a writer. She brought along a friend named Molly. At first, I did what I normally do, which is ignore the girls. Ignore them because you're not interested, or ignore them because, I'm going to play it cool, don't care about her, even though, your mind is in the gutter. I did this as a way to save myself the trouble of getting rejected. Okay, so it sounds like a defense mechanism. I'm going to reject you before you reject me. Not a very healthy way to go about life, guys. I can see why some guys do that, but still, I got to say it. Also, by this time, I was used to girls not caring about me, so I figured Molly was no different. However, to my surprise, Molly struck up a conversation with me. She was 5 years older than me, but I didn't mind. I was 32, and she was 37. Even so, she was still a good-looking woman. By night's end, we had exchanged phone numbers. Okay. Good for you. She's older than you, but seems like you didn't care. To each their own. But remember, guys, as I say, a lot of videos. If you're a guy whose whole life you were invisible to women, and all of a sudden they're starting to pay attention to you and there's nothing that's changed about you at all, you got to question some things, because there are women out there that can recognize that guy a mile away who hasn't had a lot of experience with the ladies, and realize he's easy to get, and they're there to use him for his resources. Over the next few days, Molly and I talked constantly. I learned she was an artist, a painter to be exact. Oh boy, an artist, huh? Also, she had a 5-year-old boy, Nathan. Now we're getting down to it. A single MOM 5-year-old boy. Can you guess what's probably going to be coming from this situation? The father was not in the picture. Are they ever? He was from a different country and went home after learning about the pregnancy. That's how Chad and Tyrone roll, if this is the true story. As such, Molly and Nathan were struggling. Oh, imagine that. At the time, they were living with Doug's girlfriend, sleeping on a pull-out couch. I felt so bad for them, I invited them to come live with me. After all, I was all alone in a big house. Smack! There we go, the white knight. Now we're getting down to it. And you know what? I'm sure you're a cool guy, and contrary to what you thought about yourself back then, you had some appealing qualities, but still, you weren't rolling with the ladies, and all of a sudden this girl's paying attention to you. You're talking, having a good time. Seems like you're building something. And she's a single mom who's, living couch to couch. Come on over, live with me. Gee, she didn't set the stage for that one. She didn't put the chess pieces on the board for that to happen. My grandparents left the big house to me, and they passed away. The truth is, I've been alone so many years, I thought this would be a chance to start something. So you invited a single mom who you haven't hooked up with yet to come live with you. In the beginning, everything was good. Nathan was a shy but well-mannered kid. We got along very well. Meanwhile, Molly had brought all her painting supplies into a spare room and turned it into her personal art studio. This included aisles, canvases, and all manner of paints. That's where she spent most of her time, locked in that room, making art. She didn't have a real job, so I was now responsible for the welfare of 3 people, including myself. Smack! I know you know this now, but you didn't back then. I didn't really mind because I had a good job, and also for the first time I felt like I had my own family. So let's cut through the bullshit here. Even though you said that, when you first saw her, you ignored her, you wanted to reject her before she rejected you. Now I get it. Being rejected ain't fun. I've been rejected plenty of times. Not every girl likes me. That's for damn sure, given what my personality, what I do for a living. But putting that aside, obviously this is what you wanted. And she knew that. She could see it a mile away, and she's wanted to exploit that. I just wish you could have gotten, a gal under different circumstances. One evening, Molly and I were watching a movie together. Nathan had gone to bed, and we were sitting very close together on the sofa. So I kissed her, and she kissed me back. But when I tried to initiate sex, Molly pushed me away and said she wasn't ready. We've been talking for a while, and, you moved in with me with your kid, and you certainly act like my girlfriend, and you were kissing me back, but not interested in the sex? She said she only slept with people she was dating. I was confused because I thought moving them into my house meant we were together. Was I missing something? Well, I'm going to do a timeout here and say this. A lot of people would hear this story so far, particularly women, and say, well, technically, there was never the talk of a relationship or officially dating and all that. So, maybe in her mind, you were a good friend, moving her in, helping her out and all that, even though you're paying for everything. So you shouldn't be expecting sex. But the thing is this. Contrary to what a lot of people want to believe, women aren't dumb. Or if they are dumb, they do have enough intelligence in the whole dating human relationship spectrum to know when a guy is into them. And believe me, they know. and she knew that you were into her. And she moved the pieces on the chessboard so that you wouldn't invite her to come live with him. She saw that a mile away. So come on here. She knew that you liked her. She knew that you thought you were more than friends or anything like that. Come on here. As the weeks go by, Molly is constantly going out. Not only that, each time she gets all dressed up and asks me for money before she leaves. Where do you think she's going? And is she contributing any money in this situation here? You're paying she's free rent, food, you're paying for the electric bill, she's sleeping on your furniture, she's got a babysitter, and she's going out and asking you for money. Talk about, mooching. I give her the money, and then she goes out for several hours. Smack! Are you out of your mind? Bro. And you're not getting any ass out of this? All the while I'm home with Nathan. You're babysitting her kid while she's going out effing some other dude. Then one time a car enters my driveway. Molly gets in, but I notice the driver is a guy. She doesn't return until the next morning, and when she does, I confront her. I asked who the guy was, and she said he was a gallery owner. She went out to talk business. Yeah, she went out all night to talk business, because that's when business meetings usually go on at 3 o'clock in the morning while she's all dressed up and you gave her a wad of cash. How crazy to think otherwise. But they were both drunk, so she stayed in the spare bedroom at his house. I asked if they had SCX, and she snapped at me. She denied it, but added even if they did, it was none of my business since we weren't together. Again, this guy thought they were together. I got angry and told her if we weren't together, she needed to pay for room and board. She answered fine and went upstairs. Later that night, I heard my bedroom door open and the silhouette of a woman entered. It was Molly. She was completely butt naked and slept in bed with me. Oh, I guess she's going to now pay for room and board, huh? We made love and it was wonderful. No, you didn't make love because she's behaving like an escort, and escorts don't make love. I woke to Molly still sleeping next to me and realized I was no longer a virgin. She opened her eyes and smiled. Whoa, that explains some things. I got no problem with dudes being virgins by their own choice, but it sounds to me deep down that's not what you always wanted. Well, you had to lose it somewhere. Then Molly apologized for her recent behavior, and she said she would start paying me as soon as she sold some paintings. Well, define pay. I asked if this meant that we were now a couple, and she nodded yes. So I assured her, don't worry about paying for anything, just focus on your art. I'll take care of us. She was so elated, she went down on me, and I experienced bliss. Then she got on top of me and finished me off. Again, the pieces of the chessboard. Now you're getting paid, finally, but just, not in a U.S. currency. I finally had my own family, so I thought. No, you didn't. Nathan and I were getting pretty close, but Molly continued leaving at night, especially during the weekends. Oh, late night business meetings with the ARC, even though she's supposed to be your girlfriend now? You know what I feel the worst for in this whole story? The kid. The 5-year-old Nathan, whose mother is, well, I don't need to say it. You all know what I'm thinking here. And this kid probably just gets strung around from guy to guy. Sometimes I would plan an evening together, but she would say, sorry, dear, but I got to go to this event. It's important to my career. This happened so often, we hardly saw each other. And you know why he didn't break up with her or kick her out? Because she's living with him. And depending on the state that they live in, she could make the argument with the help of a lawyer that she had residency. And he's going to feel bad for the kid. To top it off, I was working 60 hours a week. When what little time I had to spend with Molly, she was either locked in her studio or out meeting with potential clients. She was locked in her studio away from you. And I want to know how much, after the initial payment you got, how much payment you were getting afterwards. Once a month? On rent day? Well, you own the house. Okay, fine. So you're taking care of other things. But what got me really suspicious and our sudden drop in intimacy. When we first became official, we were doing it every other day. Then it became once a while to hardly at all, because Molly was either too tired or busy. After a period of nearly 5 months without SCX, I was sure she was getting us somewhere else, so I devised a plan. 5 months. She's living there with her kid, and you're paying for everything, because obviously she hasn't sold a painting. She must be a pretty shitty artist. Oh man, you need my work back then. She had this supposed dinner date with an important art collector planned for Friday night. Little did she know I'd spoken with Doug and asked if he could watch Nathan for a few hours. Also, I wanted to borrow his car. He knew my plan and knew not to tell anyone, so everything was set. That evening, I watched Molly leave, and as soon as she was out of sight, I drove Nathan to Doug's place, where I swapped my car for his. I knew where Molly was going, and she had talked about this event all week. I just hoped she wasn't lying. I arrived at the restaurant and drove around the parking lot until I spotted Molly's car. Then I positioned my car, or rather Doug's car, in a corner where I could see both her car and the exit of the restaurant. I brought along my Canon 5D with a 200mm lens for long-distance shooting. I never thought my hobby would help me out in this way. But here I was waiting and hoping I was wrong about Molly. My brother, there is no way you were wrong about Molly. After several hours, I spotted Molly leaving the restaurant, only she wasn't alone. Oh, what a surprise. She was with a man. He was an older gentleman, probably late 40s. His arm was around her waist, and the way they were clinging each other, it was obvious they were more than business associates. I snapped away with my camera. When they reached the car, he got into the car adjacent to hers. They left the parking lot, and I followed close behind. I almost lost them at a random light, but luckily they pulled into a hotel off the same street. I guess he's about to get paid too. However, because I had to enter from front of the hotel, I was almost exposed. If not for the two of them busy flirting, I quickly parked and managed to get a couple shots of them holding hands and entering the hotel. That was all I needed. I'm sorry, man. That sucks, but, you were extremely inexperienced and you were preyed upon. But, yeah. She's a user. She's a piece of garbage. And again, the entire time, including when you first met before she moved in, she knew you were into her, and she was taking advantage of that. I sat in the car, staring at the hotel entrance, my heart sinking as I watched Molly disappear inside with her lover. For a while, I stayed parked, hoping that maybe there was some other explanation. But deep down, I knew better. Driving home, a strange calm settled over me. The anger I'd expected wasn't there. Instead, it was just hollow acceptance. I picked up Nathan from Doug's, carrying him home to the house without waking him. None of this was his fault. It's not his fault. I felt bad for this kid. But Molly, she had made her choice. When she came back the next morning, she tried to act like everything was normal, chatting about her art and the big opportunities she was chasing. I didn't respond. I'd upload the photos onto my laptop. They were playing on a continuous slideshow. Instead, I turned the laptop so she could see. That would have been funny to watch. Her eyes widened as she realized what she was looking at, and then she froze. And she said, "Eric, I'm sorry." I cut her off. "I don't want to hear it, Molly. You've been lying to me for months." My voice didn't waver. "I want you and Nathan out of the house by the end of the week." Praise the Lord. Sorry you had to find out this way, but yeah. And again, this poor kid. Because this kid has no father in the picture. I'm sure mom's been hopping around from sucker to sucker. And yes, you were a sucker. I'm being honest here. She suckered you. And then sucked you a little bit, but then sucked other dudes. And now, and this kid is just guy after guy. This messes kids up. She started to tear up. Shocker. "But where will we go?" she said. "What about Nathan?" "You'll figure it out," I replied, my tone flat. "But you're not staying here." Molly hesitated, her face softening, like she thought she could charm her way out of this. She says, "Eric, I stopped her again. "It's over. Whatever this was, it is over." The words hit her hard, and I could see it in her face. There was no pleading, no bargaining. She knew I meant it. She turned and went upstairs without another word, and that was the end of it. Over the next few days, she packed up her things in silence. I kept my distance, letting her and Nathan get ready to leave. I did feel bad for him. He was innocent in all of this, but I couldn't keep pretending we were a family just because I didn't want to be alone. That wasn't fair to him or to me. It's not fair to you, and you got to take care of you, because I guarantee you she counted on you feeling bad for him for, she probably thought that she could drag this thing out for years until she found a guy that she felt was worthy of her. And then she would yank that kid out of there so quick you never hear from her again. When they finally left, I stood in the empty house. It was a feeling I had known well before Molly and Nathan had come into my life. And I was back. But this time, it felt heavier. As the days wore on, it felt a strange sense of relief too. All the lies and all the stress of not knowing were gone. And at the very least, I got to experience what could have been. The end. So there you go, guys, about yet another story about a single MOM using a guy who had no experience, didn't know any better, and had no problem doing it. And not to mention, emotionally harming her kid in the way. There's an entire world full of these types that do this in varying degrees, of course. There are single moms out there that I know, and that are out there, that don't do this crap. Let me make that abundantly clear. I know some that are cool, but it doesn't mean that kid ain't going to come first, so be aware of that. So, bro, I'm sorry this happened to you all those years ago, and I can't blame you for not wanting to be in relationships, but if we're being honest here, and, I'm trying to be honest here, clearly that's something you wanted back then. You wanted someone in your life. You liked having a family. You didn't like being alone, okay? But there's a difference between not being able to be alone and therefore inviting people into your life to take advantage of you because you're desperate versus you like to have somebody in your life, but you're perfectly fine on your own with you and your dog or your cats, or you get the point. And you have your friends, you have your family, but you don't have a wife or girlfriend or kids like that. There's a difference. And honestly, this is why I encourage guys that, okay, fine, when you were young, you said you described yourself as the fat kid. Well, guess what? I went through a chubby period too when I was a kid. And guess what? I felt like shit. Yeah, me. I've mentioned this before in the videos. I was a skinny little kid until I was 9, and they dragged me away from my home across the country to small town Pennsylvania, and because they didn't like me because I was an outsider. And so all I did was watch cartoons and eat Doritos, and I got chubby as hell by the 5th grade. And for a couple of years, yeah, and nobody likes being the chubby kid. It does something to you. But then I started watching Arnold Schwarzenegger movies and thinking he was pretty cool. And a very early growth spurt, I stretched out like that, started lifting weights and lost the body fat. And I never want to be like that again, And then I maintained exercise and good eating my entire life. So I chose to change. And all the guys, maybe you're struggling right now with that because, you can change. But you got to make the effort. And also, if you are, just because in high school you were not popular with the girls, doesn't mean you can't turn things around. Work on your social skills, work on your appearance, things like that, and start practicing. And maybe get some experience at the department. Indeed, if that's what you want. But you had no experience and all that, and obviously, and so you felt pretty down about yourself. So, because you felt down about yourself, you were easy prey for her, and she took advantage of you, and she knew it, okay? I just would have hoped that maybe you would have got some experience early on and put yourself out there a little bit, because let's be honest, you did like the relationship, let's be honest here, and you like getting some ass, and that way you wouldn't have fallen prey to her. But the point of the whole thing is, guys, there are girls out there that are going to use guys, absolutely, and if you don't have experience, you don't think very highly of yourself, you can be very easy prey to them. So, if deep down, no matter what you say, you obviously want something more in terms of like a relationship with the right one, of course, you got to get some practice. You got to make it happen. So the whole, I ignored her, even though you really wanted to talk to her, that type of thing, because I'm going to reject her before she rejects me. That's not a very healthy way to go. But many have done that. Hell, I've even done that when I was younger too. It's not a good place to be. But anyhow, bro, sorry it happened to you, but if you're happy in your life right now, great. You and your dog doing your thing. You got your bros, you got your house, you got your friends, your memories. But if you want more than that, just remember what I said here. But be very careful who you let into your life. And I know you know that. So, bro, good story here. I'm glad you shared it. You're going to get a lot of smacks for what happened. But you were younger, didn't know any better, and she did take advantage of you. Again, I like to know what happened to that kid. That kid probably... Usually kids like that end up getting into a lot of trouble. Juvenile hall, that type of thing. I hope that kid, because it was 10 years ago, so the kid's probably, a late teen by now. Lord knows what happens to him. So, guys, just be aware of that for you guys out there, so you don't fall prey. Alright guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. Be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.